From a general standpoint, I think my father always made sure that he gave me positive feedback on everything I pretty much did, whether it was sports that we did together, playing tennis, doing my schoolwork, things of that nature. He always was very good at making sure that I knew where I was at. In my first growing up life, historically, I would have to say that my personality was probably one of a very shy nature growing up. And I certainly could be one that might be almost scared of my shadow. And as I was growing up in my life, my father just continued to reassure those things in me from a personal standpoint. And that always his love for me and his care for me never changed, never, regardless if it had to do with failure in my life, regardless of whether it was good things, positive things. It was always shoring me up and giving me those positive feedbacks at all times, even through the tough times and situations where I might not have done the right thing. Growing up in the Philippines and being a missionary kid, I was very far from culturally westernized. And I'd have to say I was very third world. The only Americans that I'd ever really talked to was my family, other than other missionaries we'd see from time to time. I spoke a different languages and was in a totally different culture. So it was a huge shock for me at that time in my life in 5th grade, coming to the U.S. and getting into the school system and working through that. And I was very fearful from a standpoint of my own personality. And God began to speak to me, being a Christian at that time, to begin to show me that it's about what He feels who I am. And it really, really doesn't matter even what another person says about me, my stature, my size, whatever the world may be throwing at me as far as my esteem is concerned. And that was when it first hit me. But one of the statements my father made later on at the beginning of high school that for some reason sticks to me, I don't even really know why, but he set me aside going to church one day when it was just him and I. And he said, "Joel, someday soon you're going to have to begin to make decisions for yourself." And he said, "All your life you've done things because your mom and dad told you to, and because we said it's the right thing to do. And you go to school, you go to church, you do the right things, and you make the right decisions, regardless of what happens around you." And for some reason that stuck in my heart and my life, and it made an impact going forward. That I always came back to that statement. Am I really doing what I'm doing for God? Am I fearful because I'm afraid that God is not happy with me? Or am I fearful just because of what other people say or think or do around me? And I think that's one of the most profound statements that, or talks that my father left with me. And I can't necessarily say I always make the right decisions as far as my esteem and my concern, and I'm not going to admit that I don't always not have fear or concerns because I'm afraid of what other people think, but I certainly always go back to that and how God works in me and how I should do my best to not allow others to affect how He thinks of who I am.